When I need answers about anything to do with personal growth, I go straight to my mom and my aunt. Here they are, Priscilla Babin and Tina Gilliatt with the Sister Sauce.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sister Sauce. I'm here with my beautiful sister Tina and some extra people. I've got Clover on the one side of me and I've got Renee on the other side of me. So if you're listening in, that's why there's 4 voices today.
It'll be interesting for everyone to try to differentiate if they're just listening, to differentiate between, especially the 3 of you, but sometimes you and I sound alike.
Yep. It's like a game. Which one's Tina? Which one is Priscilla? Which one's Renee? Which one's Clover?
Drink a shot every time Tina talks. Uh-oh. You'd be drunk before the end of the episode for sure.
And you can't, there's no take backsies. It's too late if you figure out, wait, that was Priscilla. Too late, you're drunk.
Priscilla and crew celebrated Harry Potter's birthday last night.
Yes, it early, listeners, because if you're out there going, it's not his birthday yet, you're correct, but we don't always have Renee here with us to celebrate it, so we decided to celebrate his birthday early. So now he's surprised. So happy birthday, Harry Potter, 2 weeks early.
Yeah, there you go.
Whatever it is.
Yesterday on Jeopardy, and we're recording this on Saturday, so tomorrow is actually the 14th, but yesterday on Jeopardy, there was a category that said, who said it on Harry Potter, or Harry Potter character who said it, something along those lines. But all the clues were quotes from characters in Harry Potter. Ooh. And I got a few of them. It was 5 questions. It was one category. I got 2 of them. AJ got 2 of them. And then one we totally missed. But
that can get sketchy because there are some things that are said in the movies that are said by different characters in the book, just because they made changes. And I can't think of off the top of my head where those things are in the different books and movies, but I know I have noticed, I know at least one time they swap out Neville for Dobby.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. And
well, these were like very memorable lines or very character related. So the very top one, the lowest value was Hermione, and I got that one because it was when she was scolding Harry and Ron about something. And then one that the other one I got was Sirius Black, and then AJ got Professor Snape and the name that shall not be mentioned. I'm like, I can't believe they want you to say the name. You're not supposed to say the name.
Fear of the name only encourages fear of the thing itself. Hermione.
The one neither of us got was, it was one of the other professors whose name escapes me at the moment. But
Lonnie? No, it was probably McGonagall.
No, it wasn't McGonagall or Dumbledore. It was one of the random ones, I think.
Flitwick?
I don't know. But anyway, it maybe wasn't a professor, come to think of it. But anyway, yeah, it was interesting though. I said, oh, Priscilla would get all these questions right. AJ and I battle with Jeopardy all the time. I have some hot sauce to share.
Yeah, we should do a hot sauce.
I guess we should do the show, right?
Yeah. Good.
I have hot sauce. This is my hot sauce, and I got it from you. So I hope it wasn't your marinade.
What? I bet it is. That's okay. I'll come up with something else. I
It is what you would
don't
do?
know. You haven't said
Oh.
it yet. I don't know.
Oh, I thought you could tell by the look on my face. Okay.
Oh.
Well, so as you know, I have been struggling to get past some things that were said to me that were kind of mean and hurtful. And one of the things I know I said to you and I said to my husband was, I want them to know how much they hurt me so that in my mind that they would say, oh, I really didn't mean to hurt you. But both you and AJ talked sense into me and said, don't worry about it, just move on. And you sent me a video that illustrated that so nicely. And it was this guy talking about how if a snake bit you, what would be the better thing to do? Would the better thing, he worded it completely different than I'm going to word it. So just, this is Tina talk. This isn't, you can go ahead and take that shot now. Keep drinking. Yeah. He said, if you got bit by a snake, would you put off self-care, wound care, and recovery from that bite? Or would you go after the snake? Would it make sense to go after the snake to let him know how much it hurt and why you didn't deserve it? And he said, think about that and read it again. It was like a written thing and it said, and read it again. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is so true. I should be worried about recovering from it and not worried about trying to emphasize to the snake that they hurt me and I didn't deserve it because they probably won't recognize it anyway. But yeah, so that's it. That's my hot sauce. Don't go after the snake and try to tell them why they hurt you or how bad it hurt. And don't try to tell them that you didn't deserve it because they don't really care or they wouldn't have hurt you to begin with.
True.
That's my hot sauce.
So you worry about your snake bite and I'll worry about the snake.
Yeah, you leave those up to your nibblings and your sister to take care of.
Yeah, AJ said, we just need to crush the snake's head and then we don't even have to talk to him anymore. And I'm like, oh,
I'm
that's
crushing
not
your head. It's this big.
It's all animal control.
I love that. Call
Yeah.
animal control.
Yeah. We've got a bunch of information about our meat sauce today, our history of not history of the whole thing of break free from the big 3 day. And the big 3 being bad habits, bad relationships, and bad cell phone providers, which I think is really kind of funny.
It's hilarious. I'm like, why? But the article that I found about the day itself didn't really explain why.
Why
It was
the
just
cell
so
phone
like,
provider?
why this weird combination? But that's what it is. But you know what? Other places that we looked at that talked about break free from the big 3, they alluded to the fact that, yeah, they're going to focus on 3 specific things, but in general, it's for people to just take a look at your life and say, what's not working and how can I improve this?
Yeah.
I'm trying to apply
that. I'm trying to apply that to all 3 in my
I know. Yeah.
What's not working? My signal in the back of the house.
Well, we need to make a disclaimer that we're not going to do a mobile plan comparison today.
No, we are not.
We are not going to
It's
speak
hard
about
enough to
mobile
do
plan.
that on your own, without being responsible for everybody else's advice. Because
But
it
we're sure
depends
you
on
can
a
find
lot
one
of
online.
factors. It depends on what you can afford, where you live. And even here, I'm not going to say who we have, but in the front part of my house, I have full bars. This room and the further back in my house I get, my bars go down. I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is. And the neighborhood the kids' school is in, no bars. It's a complete dead zone. And
I
it's
think
like
your house is
3
built on
blocks
a
away.
cemetery.
It's haunted. It might be.
It's like Amityville. I'm kidding.
Be haunted.
Well,
Haunted.
the first thing that we're going to talk about is breaking free of the bad habits and how to change behaviors. And so we have 6 steps to changing habits.
Yeah. 6 steps. So hang in there. You can do all of them. The first one you have to do is identify cues. Something has to trigger a habit, and a cue can be anything. Maybe stress makes you crave chocolate, or maybe like anything can make you have cravings. That's one of those problems with using food as therapy or self-care is I'm mad, I'm gonna have some chocolate. Or I'm so sad, I'm gonna have some chocolate. I'm so stressed out, I really
Or a
need
shot.
yeah, or a shot, yeah. Or something really bad, it's like bad habits, tend to come from, it's like a self-medicating kind of a thing. And so when those things trigger you and then you have to do something about it, then this is my triggering thing, and then I do the thing that I'm trying to eliminate. So then you have to, if you know what those are, that's a good first step.
Yeah. And then the second step then is, now that you know your cues, you have to disrupt them. So one of the examples that they gave in one of the articles that we found was, if your bad habit is that you keep smashing the snooze button on your alarm clock, then figure out a way to stop doing that, like move the alarm clock to the other side of the room, or get a different type of alarm that doesn't have a snooze, and don't go back to sleep after you turn it off. But yeah, that's the second step. So first is identify your triggers, and then second is to disrupt them.
So have you seen the alarm clock that has the little wheels and it'll roll all around your room and you have to chase after it? I've thought about getting one of those.
You can do like Olivia does. She sets like, when she has to get up and she knows we're not here to like reinforce her waking up, she'll set like 7 alarms that go off like every 5. You do that too, Renee?
I have 2 different alarm clock apps, and I have a physical clock. And so I set my alarms for, this is when I should get up. And then this is, I've accidentally slept through my alarms and I need to wake up or I will be late for work.
It works. I always set 2, and I turn the first, I have a pattern that I don't hit snooze. I turn the first one off completely. And then when the second one goes off, I'm like, okay, that's the one I have to get up for. Except that there has been a couple of times where I've thought I'm just going to hit snooze and I'm not looking. So turn it off. And the next thing I know, we're running it all around.
I've done that where I thought I hit snooze and I turned it off by mistake.
I set one like 15 minutes before I want to get up. And then so I do it in like increments. So I'll do 15 minutes before I want to get up. When I want to get up, 10 minutes after, 5 minutes after, 3 minutes after, 2 minutes after, 1 minute after. Like, and so I still turn all of them off.
Yeah. We can hear him. And every once in a while, they're out cold and we can just hear the alarm going and going, and I go in there like, turn it off.
Olivia has her ringtone set to "Your mother is calling, your mother is calling." I don't know where she got that from, but whenever I look at the clock and I'm like, "Ooh, I'm sure she said she was setting her alarm for 8 and it's 8:15 or whatever," and I'll call her. I can hear it all the way downstairs, so I know the phone is going to wake her up.
I think it goes along ringtone for me is something similar. I think it says something about mom. It might be Stewie doing the mom thing.
Oh,
I can't remember.
PJ used to do that. He had that on his phone. I don't think it was from my phone calls, but it was something else.
I found a recording of this girl who does she reenacts stuff from Harry Potter, but she makes it really funny. Like she puts her own spin on it. And she does a really good McGonagall voice. And she did a recording on TikTok of herself as McGonagall trying to wake somebody up and saying, you're going to be late, and so like she's on there doing, and she does a real good job. And I had that saved in my in a screen recording on my phone, and for a while I would go just play it really loud at the kids. It didn't help. They didn't like it.
When my kids were little, I used to go in the room and sing, oh, how I hate to get up in the morning. That's the one mom used to sing to us. Oh, how I want to just stay in bed.
I'm pretty sure I have sung that.
Yeah.
To hear your mother call, you gotta get up.
You gotta get up. You gotta get up in the morning. Yeah. Oh well, we went down a rabbit hole there. What do you do once you identify your triggers and disrupt them? What's the next step,
You
Priscilla?
replace.
Yeah.
I'm fidgety. You replace. Research shows that replacing bad behavior with a good one is more effective than stopping the bad behavior alone. So you have, if you just have to stop cold turkey from a bad behavior, that's like impossible. You have to fill that void, that inactivity, I think, is, especially if you have ADHD. But the new behavior kind of interferes. It's like a disruptor, It interferes with the old habit and prevents your brain from going on autopilot. And so deciding to eat fruit every time your brain says cookies is a good substitute positive behavior for a negative habit. And that actually, y'all know we've talked about we're doing WW, formerly known as Weight Watchers, and I eat so much fruit now.
Clover talked about that last week. Remember, replacing bad snacks with fruit.
That's right. Yeah. Earlier this week, I had texted you that I thought I was going to turn into a grape. Grapes are good.
I love grapes.
Bag of chocolate chips that you found in the back of the pantry. Bad.
It's important.
Control, self-control.
Self-control. What's that? So you have to keep it simple, though. It's usually hard to change a habit because the behavior is one that you've done so often, it's become automatic. So the opposite is true too, though. New behaviors can be hard because that's not the step you've taken before. And so the autopilot part hasn't taken over the behavior. And so you have to keep doing those new behaviors, the healthier behaviors, for a while before they become autopilot for you. So don't give up. Don't give up.
Yeah. And you can, I feel like you can, like, old habits can sneak back up on you. We might be getting to that. But you got to get on the good habits. And then you have to think long term. Habits are formed because they satisfy short-term impulses. And so like chewing on your nails, which I used to do quite actively, might immediately calm your nerves, but short-term desires often have long-term consequences, like really ugly fingernails, or even getting infections in your fingernails from them being too short and breaking the skin and gross things like that. Nasty chewed up fingers. And so focusing long term while trying to change some habits will help you remember why you're investing in the effort. So when I stopped biting my nails mostly, um, a little while ago, and my nails started to grow and looked pretty fancy, and so that was good positive reinforcement for me. So you
That's
gotta
good.
look at the positive
It's
result.
because you were persistent.
I
So
will.
research tells us that we have to be persistent. It is a strong indicator that what you've done before is what you will do again, what will happen again. So it means that old habits will come back, just like you said. So if you keep at those new behaviors, they eventually turn into habits as well. And you just have to be persistent. At first, it's going to be hard for you to get up at 5 o'clock without turning that alarm off. But after you chase the alarm clock around the room several times, you might not need to anymore because you might just get out of bed automatically and turn the thing off because you don't want to have to run after it. So I think it should be rigged to where it only runs if you hit the snooze button. Well, but then it would have to let you hit the snooze button at least once. But yeah, I like that though.
I don't know if I'm not familiar enough to know how it can be programmed, but it'd be good if you had different settings, like if you have to go to work, like it really runs from you, but doesn't get, like, maybe it could tease you, like get close and be loud and then back up, and so you have to, bad cat.
I
That's
love
all you really need is a bad cat.
that.
Oh, but many times.
Well, I was going to say, we've talked about it on here before. I think we talked about it when we did our little list of favorite books. But one of my favorite books is Atomic Habits. And I'm trying to remember who wrote it. I don't remember offhand, but look up Atomic Habits because it's a great book that tells you how to break bad habits and create new ones. And there's even like a Cliff Notes version of it out there. If you listen to it, you will get the gist of it, and it's very helpful. I have a good friend who recommended it to me, and I found it very helpful as well.
It's
But
I looked it up real quick. Why are you saying that? It's James Clear.
I was going to say James Clear, but I thought I was wrong. Okay,
Oh,
good.
you're right. And it is available in audiobooks. So for
Yes,
those
that's what I
of us who
listened
are
to
real
was the
busy and like
audiobook.
to clean and read at the same time or whatever, drive and
Yeah.
read.
It's funny, I'm listening to an audiobook right now, and I don't know if I talked to you about this the other day. I was talking to somebody about it, but it's the main character, it's fictional, and the main character is trying to come up with an idea for a film project. And I'm getting like all excited for her, but I haven't had time to listen to it.
Oh no.
And so I'm frustrated. I still have like 5 hours left of this book to listen to, 4 hours maybe. And I'm frustrated because I haven't been able to do it. I've got usually like if other people are in the area while I'm doing my stuff, I can't listen. But anyway, or if I need to be focused, I can't listen. So I'm going to eventually get to listen to the rest of that book. But check out Atomic Habits by James Clear. And the next thing we're going to talk about is getting out of those bad relationships, recognizing them and getting out of them. So the first thing is 19 types of relationships that you want to get out of. And Priscilla, we don't have to share all the details that we discovered in our research. We can just chat amongst ourselves about it pretty easily understood. So what's the first one? What's the first type of bad relationship that you should get out of?
Well, the first one is when one partner is regularly dishonest.
Oosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. And so it's difference between a white lie saying, of course, no, those pants don't make your butt look big, and more serious ones. Here's a quote. Relationships thrive when there is cooperation and a mutual exchange of curiosity and admiration. That's from relationship coach Sarah Russell. If someone is acting unilaterally and so focused on themselves that they can't also take into account your experiences and feelings, you may consider why you are in the relationship and if staying is worth it. So I think
Mm,
a person who is constantly dishonest is disrespectful, you
mm,
know, and it's not it's very self-centered. So that's a good reason to
yeah.
bye-bye.
The second one that's mentioned is when you and your partner want different things from the relationship.
Mm,
And you know, from everything that we read, it's like understood it's okay for couples to argue because it's natural. If you don't hash things out, now, obviously, it's not okay to yell and scream and throw things at each other or beat each other up, although sometimes we might feel like we want to do that. Not me, but I'm just saying you have to restrain yourself and be respectful. But you should rethink your relationship if you're arguing about basic fundamental things like,
mhm.
and you totally disagree, and your morals and your values are not the same, and you're not in the relationship to get the same outcome. If I'm in a relationship because I want to get married and have babies, and my partner's in the relationship just because they want a companion, but they don't plan on ever committing, maybe it's time to end that relationship and move on.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, you see that in a lot of the you know, TV shows and movies where, you know, it's when it's these big differences, you know, and they really should separate. And it's not until they find the right person and all of a sudden it's like their goals change because it's the right person. So it's like a clue you're not with the right person when the goals don't match up, especially something big like having kids. That's a
Yeah.
huge commitment. And you can't have somebody who wants kids and somebody who doesn't want kids trying to make that work. That's too huge, you know, it's too big.
And you know, sometimes
Minds.
I'm
That's true.
sorry, Clover, what did you say?
Said, don't forget, people can change their minds though.
That's true.
You read my mind. That's what I was getting ready to say because it was interesting that I used that example because when AJ and I were dating, we broke up at one point and then he wanted to get back together. And I said, it doesn't make sense for us to get back together because we want different things. You've already said you've been married before, you have children, you don't want that again. But that's what I want. And so I need to move on. But then all of a sudden he said, you know, I was just running my mouth. That's not necessarily true. We just have never talked about it. And we've been together for 2 years now. And I said that in the beginning, but my mind has changed, just like Clover said. So we wound up getting together and we had children and we've been married, what, 41 years now? So almost. Yikes.
That's not possible.
I'm so grown up.
You can't be married that long because I was like, what? How old was I when you got married?
Neither of you are a day over 30. I don't know what you're talking about.
Let's see, you were 10 when we got married. or so.
No.
Oh, I just gave away your age. Oops.
It
Oopsie.
was 20 years ago.
It was 20 years ago when we got into our 40-year relationship.
Yeah.
No.
Girl math.
What's that movie? 13 going on 30?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love
I
that
stopped
movie.
aging like Paul Rudd. What are you talking about? He's an
Oh,
alien. That's okay.
that guy.
Good looking.
Don't
That's
get me started.
Next point.
Next point. Yeah, moving on. Moving on.
I think it's you. Number 3.
Yeah, thank you, because I was confused. So, when you feel like as though your values are being compromised, which is kind of similar to number two.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have, I guess if you have like vastly differences, different, you know, moral and your personalities are different, like I can't imagine somebody getting together with somebody who is a extreme rule follower like myself, and you know, somebody who's real loosey goosey on.
You mean like AJ and I?
I guess that could be complimentary. I suppose it depends. Maybe you need to balance each other out.
Well, I have to say we both, because you know, I'm just like you. I'm a rule follower, and I'm like, oh no, don't ever break the rules. And AJ's like, well, you know. But I have to say that when it comes down to push and shove, he is he's not like a rule breaker, like let's break every rule. It's more
Right.
like, can we bend this one a little bit?
How do we get
And
around it?
he usually listens to me and does it my way.
You're the moral compass.
It's true. He's actually said that to me, that I'm his moral compass. That was from one of the movies, and he's like, "Oh, that's like you. You're my moral compass."
How romantic.
I have another perspective on that previous point. It could also be like if one person values spending as much time together as possible, but then the other person values, you know, the times that you have apart more, you know, that's not gonna, I see that a lot, especially in high school when people are still trying to figure stuff out. And, you know, one person will be like, but I want to sit with my friends during lunch. And then the other person's like, but I want to sit with my friends during lunch. And so it's like, but then, you know, and then sometimes one of them's like, but I want it to be just us. And the other person's like, well, I want to sit with my friends, or I can't, you know, think about you too much right now because I have tests. And I'm like, okay.
I think it's a big thing in the slightly more grown-up dating scene now too, because it's a bigger conversation is why can't we date just because our political views don't line up? But political views a lot of times are also like your view on human rights and your
Yes.
view
Values
on-
based.
Yes.
So like maybe we wouldn't vote for the same person, but if you and I don't have the same opinion on like you know your bodily autonomy or you know the rights for this certain group of people, then
Mhm.
that's not just we don't get along, that's we have fundamentally different values.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you know, in some cases, people's political views are not value driven, but they should be,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, they should be.
Mm-hmm. And there's such a divide. There's such a vast difference between, you know, the different in the political spectrum.
The
Because
left and the
there
right.
is a spectrum. Our political system, I don't want to turn this into you know, a United States is messed up, you know, story. But you know, we have a two-party system, but the values and beliefs of people, both morally and politically and just personality wise, it's such a huge spectrum, and there's a lot of overlap. And two parties with very specific goals and beliefs do not reflect what everybody is wanting.
Mhm. I
And
agree.
I think this year is more evident than ever. And everybody's going, oh. I'm not going to say what I just thought because you'd have to bleep me. So,
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm getting tired of having to bleep out all your foul language
I
young lady.
know it's Yeah.
Just
I'm
kidding.
trying.
I've only bleeped Priscilla one time and she was reading a quote. So,
Yeah.
and we
Miss
forgot that
Fabulous,
it
you're
had that word in it.
I'm gonna read you a quote, but I don't think there's any naughty things in it because you sent it to me. No two people need to be carbon copies of each other, and it's certainly okay to differ on your opinion about certain subjects. But if you can't find any common ground or your values regarding things like child rearing, trust, loyalty, and family, the relationship will have a hard time lasting. That is a big red flag.
Amen to
It's a
that.
big red flag. Yep.
Yeah.
Clover and mine.
And you know what? I just wanted to say this before we go on with the rest of them is that some of this is true in friendships, not just in
Yeah.
romantic relationships, right? Because you
Mhm.
might have a friend that you go, wait a minute, their values are not at all what mine are. Maybe we need to, especially like what you had mentioned in an earlier one about where you find yourself compromising your own values because of the friendship. That's a no-no. So the
Mm.
next one is one of the red flags that you should leave the relationship is when one of you has jealousy or control issues. So if you're with somebody and they're constantly afraid that they can't trust you and that you're cheating, or they're trying to control you, that is definitely a red flag. David Simonson, PhD, a licensed marriage therapist and counselor, talks about if you're in a relationship where you're constantly fighting about feeling controlled, you shouldn't be together long term. It usually means your partner doesn't feel confident about themselves and needs to control you to feel better about themselves. And so you don't need to be in that kind of relationship. I worry about relationships with people sometimes where another person has so many problems that it affects both people. And you got to decide. Sometimes it's a good thing. Like you said, Priscilla, you can complement each other. But if one person needs help and they're not trying to get it, then that relationship's not going to survive.
Yeah. I'm thinking on the jealousy thing, it makes me wonder who is the red flag for? Because if the one person is constantly jealous, does that mean that they're just a jealous person and they are the toxic bit in the relationship? Or is there something that's signaling that jealousy that means the relationship isn't right and that's their red flag?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess it would
That
come
could go
down
both
to,
ways.
am I usually this jealous in other relationships?
Uh-huh.
My issue was I never had a whole lot of relationships. I went out on a lot of first dates, but also last dates. My loquaciousness did me in.
One hit wonders.
I wouldn't even go that far.
Just saying, if they were one time, I don't know if I call them wonders.
Wonder what went wrong.
No wondering. I knew what went wrong in pretty much every case. Oh, wow. Moving on.
Moving on.
Number 5.
Number 5 is when your goals for the future don't align at all. And that's kind of similar to number 1. Yeah, I feel like there's some wiggle room, not wiggle room, but overlap, yeah,
Yeah.
between some of these. If you find yourself consistently being questioned on how you spend money, this is a relationship to get out of. You need to find someone that you are financially compatible with. If not, there will be constant fights and hurt the relationship. And it's not just financial, it's like we were talking about already with kids, whether or not you want kids, how you want to raise the kids. We talked about each one of those in a different section here. And then what you want professionally too. Because if you have professional goals that, preclude your being able to be a parent, or where you live, affect where you live or how you spend money or what you invest in, or your time commitments. Those are all big differences in your future plans and your goals that could upset the apple cart, so to speak, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
La La Land is a good example of that.
Oh, yeah.
What was?
La La Land.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's so good. But basically one wants to become a famous actress and the other wants to be a famous jazz musician. And so they're kind of always butting heads. But the only reason one wants to become a famous jazz musician is so he can get enough money to open his restaurant. And it all flares up. So
Interesting. Yeah, the next one is sort of like what Clover was talking about earlier, when one of you isn't committed with your time. So if your hobbies and your friends are taking over all of your time and you don't have enough left for your partner, then there could be an issue. Or if your partner is demanding too much of your time and it's causing problems with these other things where you can't pursue your dreams. So I saw an interesting discussion in one of the Ted Lasso fan groups the other day where everybody was comparing Roy's relationship with Keely as opposed to Jamie's relationship with Keely. And everybody loved both Jamie and Roy, but they felt like Roy was a better fit for Keely because she was such a powerful and independent woman. And she needed somebody that would support her career, even if it meant they got excluded on some things. And, when I don't want to give the whole plot away, but when Keely was really at the top of her game and wanted Roy to be part of it, and people didn't always embrace that, she would get upset, but Roy would say, no, 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 this is about you. This is not about me. And so he was very giving of that. And yeah, so I love Roy Kent. I don't know if I've made that clear enough. He's my favorite.
He's here, he's there, he's
everywhere. He's everywhere.
edited.
Roy Kent, Roy
Roy
Kent. Oh. You know what we should do? We should have people do shots when we mention Ted Lasso. Okay, no. To make it clear, we are not encouraging anybody to drink. We just want y'all to do shots of like apple juice or orange juice, something healthy.
That's still wine.
Oh, right. My bad.
Shots of coffee. Espresso.
Yeah, espresso shots. There you go, baby.
Y'all all be hyped up by the end. And really has to go to the bathroom.
Number 7, Priscilla.
Attractive. Okay. When you say things that are mean or extremely hurtful, that should be an obvious one.
Yeah, I think
But
so too.
some people might be so, hung up on the relationship that they overlook things that are red flags like this.
Yeah, I think that everybody has said something to somebody that they love at one time or another that was hurtful.
Oh,
but
yeah, definitely.
I guess the question would be, did you get that authentic apology?
That.
And are you willing to forgive?
And how often is it happening too?
Right. Exactly.
Sometimes it's a misconception on whether it's legitimately hurting you or not, because like sometimes somebody will be like saying the same stuff like over and over and over again, and you're not processing that as they're insulting you. You're processing it as, oh, this is just what they do.
That's just their personality.
Yeah.
And sometimes they mask it in, I'm trying to help you grow.
Yeah. Oh,
watch my fist grow into your face. No,
watch your windpipe.
We are not condoning violence in any way.
Just thinking about it, just ruminating.
All right, number 8 is when your partner blames you for everything.
Ooh.
another one that's
Yeah.
probably obvious. Or if you
Right.
have a partner that every time you encourage them to do something different, they look at you and say, "That's right. Everything that's wrong is my fault."
There's a lot of communication stuff that, exercises that can fix some of these things. Well, this one, because people have a tendency to phrase things in such a way that makes the other person feel like they're constantly being blamed. And I've taken some classes and stuff on relationship things, different like marriage seminars, and I did a training to do like what's it called, peer counseling, Stephen Ministries, and you learn about a lot about how to phrase things and how to avoid using like these certain key phrases that turn a regular conversation into an argument. You always you
Oh yeah,
never
that's yeah.
you don't want to do those unless they're not harmful. You always make me smile is a big difference between you always give me acid reflux. Two different whole feelings there. When one of you can't keep your eyes from wandering, ew.
Oh, okay. I
Oh,
thought it meant like no eye contact. Because I was like, I struggle with eye contact.
no, they mean like looking at other women and stuff, or looking at other men.
Like that meme where the guy's walking with the girl and he's turning around looking at the girl behind them. And
Yeah.
she's like, good reenactment. Y'all would have to watch the video to see my reenactment. Don't be looking around.
Number 10 is when one or both of you is not happy.
That's just duh. Right?
I know, right?
Don't pretend to be happy for somebody else just because you don't want to be alone.
Yeah. I agree.
It's like in the movie Some Kind of Wonderful when she says, I'd rather be alone for the right reasons than with somebody for the wrong ones.
Yes.
Boom.
Good quote.
When your lifestyles are incompatible. So like, it could be if one person wants to party till 2 a.m. on a Wednesday night and the other person's in bed by 10. Those are different lifestyles.
But if the relationship is worth saving and you have that conversation, then maybe you can work
yeah,
it
you
out.
could correct that. That could be corrected. Yeah. Make
I
some
agree.
compromises.
Number 12 is when you're fighting with your partner over a lot of small things. So if you're arguing about every little thing, it's usually a sign that there's a bigger problem there.
No kibitzing.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it. When you simply communicate differently, well,
I've seen some hacks about the hacks. There was this one person who just like could not say I love you. It was like a reel or something. One person just like was never saying I love you physically. And the other person was getting kind of upset about that. And they were like, how come? And then they communicated about it. And then they developed a way that they could like do it physically. Like they would tap 3 times. And then they figured and then they were doing it all the time. So it's just, you need to figure out those different ways. Sometimes.
But you hit the nail on the head with the very first thing you said. They communicated. And a lot of relationship issues come from not communicating. But you're right. I mean, if you have a problem with them, something that your partner's doing, you need to tell them so that they can fix it or figure out a way around it. That's the plot of every Hallmark movie.
Yeah. In other
The
words,
guy's always afraid to tell the girl he loves it because he's already had his heart broken, or vice versa.
uh-huh.
Oh, it's like I keep yelling at the screen, talk to her, tell her what happened.
Yep. Yep.
Number 14 is when you don't feel like yourself anymore. That's sort of like what we were talking about earlier, like when you're compromising your own principles and everything, or when you just find yourself acting differently to make your partner happy, then it's an issue. And they suggest, the article that we saw suggests that you check in with family and friends and ask for honest feedback from them. Like I could say, Priscilla, am I acting different around you because I'm dating AJ? And he's
Or
so
around that
wonderful.
person than when they're apart from that person. If they're a different person outside of the relationship,
Yeah.
that means you're dimming your own light for another person. That's French Kiss, the movie French Kiss, when he says it's like there's this big magical Kate light that's been turned on inside you, and later on she's like, that's the thing. Why wasn't my I having that big light inside me when I was with you, and now I do, it's because she was with Luke. Now nobody needs to watch that one. They've seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
I gave it away. Then the next one is when one partner keeps threatening to end the relationship. That's a
Ooh,
huge red flag.
that
That's
is.
a huge
Oh
one.
my goodness.
There, that's manipulation. That shouldn't even happen.
I'm like reading all of these and going, gee, I know some people that these fit.
Mhm.
Oh, that
Mhm.
couple, 8 of these are true. No, I'm kidding. The next one, number 16, is when it's the same fight over and over again. That just says we're having the same fight over and over again, which means it's never settled. And if you can't resolve it, there are some things, smaller things that you can say, look, we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this and let's drop it.
Mhm.
But if one or the other can't drop it for some reason, or if it's a huge thing or a bigger thing that you have to keep addressing, then yeah, it's
Mhm.
time to step away.
Yeah. And then when you start to lose your desire, one of the reasons to fight with your partner could be different desire types, although many couples often forget to make it a priority. Feeling desire for your partner is a crucial element to a healthy and mutually fulfilling relationship. Um, you know, if relationships are work, though, that that one sounds like another one that could be resolved with some couples therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't always have romantic and physical desire in a relationship consistently. It ebbs and flows, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and especially, hormones change too for us ladies and anybody, it's, you hit menopause and things are different. So,
I think it's about a specific type of relationship. Like there's someone I know where I asked them why they were still with their partner. Like what benefit is either of you getting out of this anymore? And it's just that it's like those habits y'all were talking about earlier. It's become a habit to stay together. Like there's no desire anymore. They're not talking anymore. There's no real conversation or anything. It's just how things are. They just are together, and maybe it's time to move on to,
shake it up.
yeah,
Mhm.
actually doing things for yourself.
Yeah, that's true too. I guess it
Yeah.
depends on when that desire fades out,
Mhm.
you
And
know?
how long it's been
Mhm.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the next one, number 18, is when you have opposite attachment styles. So one person is more invested in a relationship in certain ways than the other one, and your attachments are different. Overcoming an anxious attachment style is difficult enough, but they explain that having both an anxious attachment and a partner that has like an avoidant attachment style can cause complications. So it's pretty typical for people on one side of the pendulum. Those are anxiously attached to be partnered to somebody on the opposite side of the pendulum. And, you know, they say opposites attract, but it's hard to work with that kind of a dynamic in a relationship. So your response to closeness is different. You have to have that same closeness, that same attraction approach, and otherwise it's disastrous.
And the last sign is when you are in a codependent pattern. And a lot of people have heard codependency, the term codependency. This is a quote, across the board, every client I have ever worked with struggles with codependency in their relationships. We are told through media and society that love should be codependent. We should lose ourselves, that someone should complete us. That's Jerry Maguire. There's all these movies. And that we should give up our lives and our dreams when we find the one. This leads to incredibly unhappy, unfulfilled, jealous, and anxious partnerships.
Yeah.
You should be co-independent.
You don't need to spend every single waking moment together. You can have your own things. It's okay to be different.
Yeah.
It should be complementary.
Sometimes, like Keely, you just need to take a bubble bath and not have Roy in the room with you.
Peanut butter and jelly. Don't be two peanut butters. Well,
Peanut butter and bread.
yeah,
They need each other.
exactly. Well, okay, maybe
Now we're getting
not the best
hungry.
analogy.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting hungry now listening to you guys.
If I knew this was a podcast about movies, I would have prepared more.
It's just our tendency.
Yeah, we tend to go in that direction every time.
So how do we end these relationships?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have to recognize that you're in a toxic relationship, as we just talked about, all of those signs and some of the examples that they give. And we're going to share all these articles in our show notes. But the examples that they give are your partner uses excessive charm and ingratiating behavior. They use the silent treatment to control you. They force you to mind read and guess, and then they act vindictive when you're wrong about something. And there's a whole list that you can read about. But all of the things we talked about previously about how to tell you're in a bad relationship and need to get out, that's basically what this is. So once you recognize it, then you can move on. And what's the next step, Priscilla?
Is prepare your finances, especially if you're in a long-term committed relationship where your finances have become blended and you share financial responsibilities like rent and pets and cable subscriptions and kids and things like that. You need to get, a plan in order so you can be financially independent from the relationship.
Yeah. And you know what, I think too, that it depends on the person. Like, I've had friends that have gotten divorced and they were able to sit together amicably and say, this is just not working. We're on two different paths and we need to split up. What do we need to do to make the separation happen as seamlessly as possible? Whereas I've had other friends, one in particular that I'm thinking of, she had been in a marriage for 30 years or longer. And she knew that if she went to her husband and told him she wanted a divorce, it would be messy. And so she felt like as much of the planning that she could do before she had that conversation with him, the better. So she actually rented an apartment and started furnishing it and everything while she was still married, and slowly packing up some of her personal items and taking a little bit at a time to the apartment. It sounds crazy, but it actually worked out well for her. Her kids were grown, and her husband, and he's passed away, but she had a wonderful relationship with him after they split
Hmm.
because she had tried many times to tell him that it wasn't working and he wasn't willing to change. And then when she left, he kind of reflected on the whole thing and realized, I should have listened to her. She tried to tell me, but yeah.
He quiet quit him.
Yeah. Yeah.
In real
But
life.
I mean, while it sounds kind of like cheesy, but it was healthy for both of them for her to make it as easy of a break as possible.
Mhm.
And she told him, "You keep the house. I'm not gonna try to take the house from you. I just need to get away." So it worked out.
Mm.
The next step is to seek outside help. So I've had friends that have had to do that too. And it depends on the relationship you're in. But if you need help, especially if you're in an abusive relationship or anything
Mm.
like that, get people to support you ahead of time before you make that move.
Yeah. The next one is just like Renee was talking about before. It's speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
You don't just accept things and stay in the relationship out of habit, or like we were saying or earlier, out of avoiding being alone. You need to speak your truth, and especially if it's abusive, like you say, get out of
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, for sure. And then the next part is once you have that conversation, you need to set boundaries
Mhm.
and make sure that you're not driven in a different direction than you want to go by the control that your partner has or whatever. So, yeah, make sure you set boundaries and stick to them.
Mhm. The next one is do a digital detox. So managing your social media relationship with the person. So unfriending or blocking toxic people on social media because of, potential backlash. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to make a clean break with them. And then it gets a little dicey the longer you've been together. And if you have mutual friends and stuff like that, that can get a little crazy.
Yeah,
You have to
what this
prepare.
one made me think of is I have a friend that um, leaves her husband every 6 months, pretty much religiously, but then is back with him 3 days later.
Uh-huh.
And she posts all kinds of stuff all over social media. And then when they get back together, she deletes everything she posted and just starts picking up where she had left off with these lovey-dovey posts. And I'm going, wait, I thought they were divorced. And this has happened like 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years. And so, yeah, a good reason not to publish all your business on social media because it makes you look a little foolish when you got to go backtrack.
Yep, that is true.
And the last one on the list is, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not the last one. Prepare for the counter strike. So especially when you're in a relationship with a toxic person and you try to end it, you need to be prepared for how they're going to act. And all those other steps that we talked about ahead of time, the setting the boundaries and coming up with a plan and all of that is all to avoid this counter strike that you might get. If you deviate from this role of the patient boundaryless, being that the toxic subject needs you to be, AKA, you have needs, rights, feelings, boundaries, or opinions that are not gratifying to the toxic person, you're punished. And so you need to be prepared for that. That's what Dr. Bobby says.
Mhm.
Stay resolute in your plans to extricate yourself from that relationship.
Good word.
Yeah, I like that.
Next one is if you can't break ties, limit contact. So, sometimes you're in the same circles, even if you've broken up, especially like if you're dating somebody at work or something like that. But you can, you know, figure out ways to limit contact. If it's something like that where you're working with somebody, change your schedule maybe, or see if you can change your location of where you're working from, but some of those are not as easy. They say they may choose to remain married to a toxic spouse in order to protect their children from having to endure a toxic relationship alone, were they to split custody. But I feel like in that situation, if it's a toxic person, then you need to fight for that custody and get them away. It's not a good enough reason.
Yeah, I
Stick around.
agree. Yeah. And the last one on the list is to try the gray rock method. And what the gray rock method is, it's mostly useful when you're in a relationship that's somewhat abusive, not necessarily physically, but verbally too, or controlling. And so if you have to be around your abuser or the person that you're leaving or have left after the split happens, then you need to try to not escalate anything with them. So it says uh, a licensed marriage family therapist named Christine Scott Hudson said that abusers thrive on intensity. So making yourself as boring and uninteresting as possible can be a protective measure. And that's not in your life in general, but it's like when you're having to be around this person, don't like be the life of the party, because y'all are at the same party. Don't be the life of the party and call attention to yourself because they won't like that. And
Sad though. Oh,
it is kind of sad because it's saying, but honestly, if I was in a relationship like that with somebody and I found out they were going to be at the same place as me, if there was a way to avoid it, I would. Obviously, you don't want to miss your niece's wedding, or you don't want to miss your best friend's graduation or whatever. But if you can avoid being around them, if they've been controlling or abusive, you should. But the gray rock method is what it's called. And she says the toxic person will move on because that's not what they're looking for. They want that intensity. So that was the last one on the list.
I've heard the gray rock method and the point before that more often in toxic relationships with family members.
ooh,
Specifically, like a lot of personal stories, not me personal, but a lot of personal stories people share about like their mother-in-law, like their toxic mother-in-law. That gray rock method is more about like less about dulling your sparkle and more about like not reacting when they're trying to get a rise out of you. So like you are not on your best behavior in this public situation. Now you don't get access to me in my life. You're not going to get a reaction out of me, and you don't get contact with my kids or, this other family member. So that applies to your toxic familial relationships too.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Or sometimes if like there's a particular touchy subject, you just don't talk about it. Even
Avoid that subject. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good point. Excellent
Don't
point.
respond if they bring it up.
Yeah.
Wow, I like that version better than what I was thinking of.
Yeah. I have seen, well, you see it on TikTok all over. People talking about their mother-in-law or their ex-husband or whatever. And it's like, why do you even go there with them? Just move on. You're stirring the pot. You need to be a gray rock. Now that's going to be an expression I use from now on. I'll comment on all the TikToks and say, you should consider using the gray rock method.
be a fish who swallowed a gray rock.
A goldfish. Be a goldfish.
Be a goldfish.
Who swallowed a gray rock. A gray goldfish that looks like a rock.
Oh, actually, that's a different kind of fish.
Stonefish.
Stonefish? Is that
Don't
what
tread on me. I'm sharp fish. I don't know.
Wow, Clover, do you have sweet and sour sauce you want to share with us today?
I do. All right. So,
All right.
non-binary awareness. Some good ways to be able to support like somebody who's just coming out as non-binary, or maybe they've been it for a while, like they've been out for a while and you're just finding out, or you're just coming around, whatever the situation is. Some good ways to learn and grow to respect this person's identity is, you ask them about their personal identity, because everybody who's non-binary is different. Non-binary literally means not for the binary. So it's not anything specific. There's no one way to be non-binary. It's not perfectly androgynous. It's not perfectly, gender neutral. It's just not that specific thing. It's like saying, oh, this thing is not a square, and then expecting it to be a circle. No, there's so many other shapes, So there's a lot of different ways, and you need to know their personal pronouns, this person, like what their preferences are, if they have a new name that they go by. Some people don't, there's some people use like specific pronouns. It's not always going to be they, them. Sometimes people use she, they, she. There's a difference between that, like it's all up to personal preference, and they may dress more masculine but still use feminine pronouns, or more feminine and use masculine. It really is personal. So you need to talk to like these people and understand their preferences. Don't come after them for their specifics. Don't be like, oh, this non-binary person does this. Well, they're a different person, you know. It's like finding two different women and going, oh, well, this woman is, writing and she's a scientist and whatnot. And then this woman is an artist and, she's drawing, and those don't equate to each other at all. So everybody's different.
Mhm.
It still applies to non-binary people.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. I think I shared it with you guys. There was a non-binary character on the new version of Quantum Leap, and it was one of my favorite characters on the show. And they actually explained how to support someone else who was non-binary to some people on the show, or they were with somebody who did it. I can't remember exactly who was talking, but the explanation that they gave was so wonderful. And it was just, this is how we need to explain to people about gender identity and what non-binary means. It was a wonderful explanation. I think I might have sent it to you guys, but for any of our listeners, if you're interested, you can look for Quantum Leap non-binary explanation and it'll probably come up. It was really beautifully worded and handled very well. I appreciated that. Television sometimes is a great teacher for us in that way. Yep. Thank you very much, Clover. Renee, do you have any sauce for us?
This is going back to our discussion of habits at the top of the episode to tie us together.
Hey.
So I've been working very hard on starting some good habits recently that are very basic good habits. But I find that one of the easiest ways for me to keep up my good habits is to do things for myself within that habit that don't allow me to do the bad habit, like physically can't. So, for example, picking your nails or biting your nails, if you paint your nails a little more consistently, even if it's not something you want to do for yourself as like an aesthetic thing, you can't, you shouldn't for sure chew on your nails if there's nail polish on there.
Yeah.
Or pick at your nails, because
Yeah.
then you're chipping the polish. It doesn't look as good anymore, or it tastes absolutely disgusting. For me, I've been trying to get more in the habit of like washing my face consistently every night instead of just when I wash my hair, or like brushing my teeth a little more consistently instead of wanting to, oh, it's really late and I just got in, I'm just gonna go straight to bed.
Mm.
Or even just I finished dinner a couple hours ago and it's right before bed, but I could really use a midnight snack. For me, that brushing teeth, after I've brushed my teeth, no more food or drink goes in my mouth except for water. So if you're wanting to get out of the habit of snacking really late in the evening, brush your teeth earlier, which, you're getting in a better habit of brushing your teeth. And also, you can't snack. Your teeth are clean. Don't
Hey,
touch it.
that's
I
nice.
like it.
And
That
when
reminds me when I did Weight Watchers many years ago, one of the bad habits that I had was that we would go to the movies a lot and I would get buttered popcorn and Whoppers. And I knew I had to replace that habit with something or I was going to crave it the whole time, especially since people that were with me were eating popcorn and Whoppers and whatever. And so I would buy a flavored coffee and drink the coffee, which was, I used artificial sweetener and non-dairy creamer. And so it was low in calories, but it satisfied my craving for something to eat or drink. But also, I don't eat anything with coffee except for breakfast. There's no way I would eat candy and popcorn with coffee. That's just gross. And so, yeah, I like that. Great idea.
Thank you.
We have had a wonderful show, but I forgot I have to let Priscilla share some marinade. Priscilla.
I'll keep it short. Y'all know I like a lot of different podcasts besides ours, and I was listening to Soul Boom again with Rainn Wilson. And I can't remember the name of the guy he had on there. Sorry. It's one of the more recent episodes. But it was a young man who he was years ago I guess it was in the 70s or the early 80s. The country he was living in was not safe for him anymore because freedom of religion was not really available to him. And he had to be extracted. Like his parents paid $10,000 to these people to smuggle him to the United States, the United States. They had to smuggle him to the United States so that he wouldn't be killed, basically. And he's an American citizen. He's actually got multi-million-dollar website that he runs and stuff. And the thing that stood out to me, though, that really struck me was here he was, a kid being chased and beaten and spit on. Like he vividly remembers having so much saliva on himself from people spitting on him, he could wring it out of his clothes when he was a kid. And he came to the United States as a teenager, and his life was so vastly different. He was into rock and roll and racing like driving muscle cars and stuff like that. And he really got into cars, and like he went from these third world problems to very first world problems very quickly. And it just, I couldn't stop thinking about what kind of impact does that make on you when you're in your formative years and you're treated so poorly and then have to transition to this whole different mindset, and it's still okay. He does not have to be expected to, live out his previous drama. He can be happy. He is free now to be happy, and he doesn't have to dredge all that stuff up every day of his life. He can talk about it if he wants to, but he doesn't have to live both of those existences. If we don't have to put that expectation. Somebody can be terminally ill and still laugh at a funny meme. Those can both exist in the same place, which is very cool. So that's my
Yeah, very cool.
marinade.
I feel so flavored.
All of this. We're very saucy today.
Well, we have talked about a lot of things today. I hope everybody looks for an opportunity to break free from the big three if that is necessary in your life, or maybe just look at your life and examine it for areas that are not working and figure out how to fix that. And thank you to Renee and to Clover for being with us today. It was wonderful to have the awesome three on the other side of the screen from me. Me and the awesome three. See, I have my own little rhyme. But we are thankful for all of y'all. And until we are back again, make yourself a priority.
And take care of you.
Bye,
And leave yourself on
everybody.
the lighter.
Thanks for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to keep up on all the latest sauce. See you next time.